Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So it's time to rank the albums of the Swedish band Ghost. And a lot of people debate about whether this band are a rock band or a metal band, but to me they're both in a way. I mean, you listen to albums like their first record, Opus Eponymous, that has very much a doom metal style about it. But they've evolved over the years more into a sort of hard rock and arena rock direction. I think with particularly with recent records like Impera and the one that's just come out, Skeletá, I think are, have very much that arena rock sound about them. But they've retained, I still feel like they've retained their theatrics. You always get a change in persona from Tobias Forge with each release, which I think adds another interesting element to this band. And you can expect theatrics and interesting live shows after the release of these albums, and I feel like they packaged that all together really, really well. And I've been a fan of these guys for a while. I don't want to say how long I've been a fan in case that gives away my favourite album, because sometimes it's the first album you encounter that becomes the one that sentimentally is your favourite. So I don't want to give the game completely away here. But we're going to start off here with my least favourite. As I do with all these rankings, I will be ranking these albums, these 6 studio albums, from my least favourite to my favourite record. We're going to start here then with number 6, which is Investicum from 2013. Now, I still think this is a pretty decent record, don't get me wrong, but it's the closest thing for me to a dud in the Ghost discography. I don't think the songwriting's as strong. I don't think that the songs are even as powerful as on other records. The high points are less for me. The hooks are not quite as memorable as on other Ghost albums, but still catchy stuff on here. Some pretty solid tracks like Year Zero, Per Aspera ad Inferi. I remember when I heard that song for the first time, and I was actually pretty blown away by that. And when they played that live as well, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, Depth of Satan's Eyes is another pretty good track. So there's highlights on this record still, but just not quite as many for me. It was the easiest one for me to decide on, and to decide that this would come at the bottom here at number 6. And next up at number 5, I'm going with 2022's release, Impera. And I really like this album. I want to stress that. Yes, it's slowed down, but Ghost only have 6 albums, and I had to put something at number 5. And I've gone with Impera. Obviously, for me, this is, this is where they're going quite far into that arena rock sound. And there are some tracks which I think maybe here go on maybe a touch longer, like that Watcher in the Skies, I think it is. It just kind of goes on a little long for me. But it's still got some great songs on here, like Spillways, the single Call Me Little Sunshine, and Respite on the Spitalfields at the end of the album. This is a fantastic track, and I understand why people might rank this much higher than me. I do think the album has that very much the sort of that appeal, that fun appeal that all the Ghost albums pretty much have, and it has strong songwriting on this one. I would not argue with that. This one still has some pretty strong songwriting on as well, but for me it just isn't quite to my taste against a lot of the other Ghost records. And there's just not so much here that I tend to go back to, so that's why it's at number 5. No real kind of other substantial reasoning beyond that. Coming in at number 4, we've got their latest album, which I did buy on CD, Skeletá. And I really love how this album sounds. I think the production by Gene Walker is fantastic. You can hear those guitar solos so nice and clearly, which is something I love about this kind of style when they're going in this 80s arena rock direction. You can hear hints of bands like Journey, well, quite strong hints, I have to say, and Def Leppard. I can hear a little bit of Scorpions now and then, maybe even a touch of Queen with some of the guitar rhythms that are employed in this album as well. And, I personally just love that sound, and I love that style, and I love the way they've done it on this latest album. So you might say, well then, Green Man, why is it only at 4? Why is it not one of your top half albums within this ranking? Well, it's new, for one, and I'm conscious of recency bias in this ranking. The other reason is that genuinely the other 3 albums above this are 9 out of 10 type albums, where I would tend to score very high scores. And I don't think Skeletor for all the enjoyment I know I'm getting out of this record is quite a 9 out of 10. I don't think it is. There are some tracks on here where I feel like they fall a bit flat as well. And like the last track, I think it's Excelsis, doesn't quite do it for me. But I personally love the other ballads on the record, Guiding Lights. I adore Satanized. I think that's one of Ghost's best ever songs. And actually Marks of the Evil One as well is another one of those kind of tracks, a deeper cut on this album you don't want to miss. So if you're only aware of the Ghost singles, you haven't listened to this album in full, make sure you check out Marks of the Evil One. What a great song. Coming in at number 3, we've got Opus Eponymous. I'm kind of surprised that I've not put this higher than number 3 even. I love this album. I love its sound. Love the doom metal. The way on this album I think that Ghost have managed to have that doom metal sort of sinister, creepy sound that sounds at times like they have also pulled from, you know, the sort of horror movie kind of playbook, if you will, with certain things going on and sounds and screams, all that kind of stuff. It's a very ghoulish sounding album, but yet it's still very melodic. It's still kind of beautiful at the same time. When you hear tracks like Ritual and you hear those soaring guitar solos in that track, particularly the one where actually I think it's the guitar solo towards the end of the song, you're just like, yeah, this is just too good, this stuff. It's a great track. I love Stand By Him as well, and I also love Death Knell. This is a classic album, and I think I think it's like a classic doom metal record in a way from 2010. It's a debut, and you don't get many debuts that get quite as good as this kind of a debut album. So yeah, it's number 3. Could have been higher, perhaps even another day it would be my number 2, but it's my number 3, Opus Eponymous. Now coming up next at number 2, my runner-up is an album which I feel like propelled Ghost into people's awareness more, particularly with the song Syracuse, one of the singles, which I remember the impact that had on, you know, a group of my friends at that time. I remember getting into Ghost, and that song they were really into. And this album is really well put together. It's very fluid from start to finish. The songs flow into one another, I think, beautifully. And it's kind of got that mix of early Ghost, I think, with signs of where they were taking things a little bit more, with, you know, a slightly bigger sound as well. You know, heavier also, I think, on this album with tracks like Syracuse, as I say. And you've also got stuff like From the Pinnacle to the Pit. He is a great sort of the ballads, I guess, the ballad of the album, and one of Ghost's best ever ballads. I think that's a terrific song, He Is. Really kind of one of those songs that if you're at the gig, you just kind of want to just sort of spread your arms out and just feel the music, you know, feel the anthem. It's a great song. And I honestly feel like I can see why this album is regarded as, by a lot of people and a lot of fans, as their magnum opus, their best record, because, you know, you're hard pressed to argue against that. But it's not my number 1. Melora is not my number 1. It's not. My number 1 is perhaps surprising. It's Prequel from 2018. And I go back to the very start of this video when I said I didn't want to give away why. You know, I don't want to say what the first album that I really got into Ghost with, because it was Prequel. And yes, I was aware of Ghost at that time. I was aware of the albums, somewhat the albums that come before, but I wouldn't have said I was a true fan at that point. I wasn't properly into them, and it was Prequel that actually really cemented my love, I think, of Ghost. What really made me a fan, because it just had songs that I repeat listen to so much, just every time. You know, I was thinking of something to listen to in that year quite often, not long after this album was released. It was, I need to listen to more of that album again. I need to go back to Which Image, one of my favourite deeper cuts on the record. I need to go back to Miasma. The instrumentals on this album are actually stunning. Miasma is a fantastic song. The other instrumental, Helvetus Fonster, is also a gorgeous song, which, for those of you that don't know, also in the sort of haunting second half of the track features Michael Ackerfeld of Opeth too, and that is well worth checking out. And then you've also got like the sort of ABBA-like song, Dance Macabre, and I mean say ABBA-like because it sounds like something that would have come out in the 70s, but still with the ghost feel, the ghost ghoulishness, the sort of darker tones of Ghost, and it's really cleverly done. It's a great record. I just think Prequel, I have a bit of sentimental attachment to this album because it really did just make me realise how good this band are. So that's my #1 album from Ghost, and that's my ranking. Let me know how you would rank these albums in the comments. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to drop a like and a sub if you enjoy my content. Until next time, bye for now.